Welcome to Lost Without Japan, a travel podcast about the life-changing experiences of exploring Japan and those moments we would be lost without. For your listening pleasure, allow me to introduce your very own Kanko Guido, Michael.
Welcome to a special episode of the Lost Without Japan podcast. Our bi-weekly podcast is focused on helping you plan your first visit to Japan or making your next adventure to Japan even better than your last. This is your director of travel for TKIC Studio Productions, bringing you positive thoughts and excitement for your next journey to Japan and his return, which, we'll see. 2 years for sure with my daughter. Hey, if I win the lotto sooner. Today's special interview episode is with Doc Kane. Once again, if you just listened to our previous episode or you're listening to this one and you're like, man, I didn't get enough of Doc. Well, I mean, we talked, for a good hour, 20 minutes last time, and we talked for over 2 hours, I think, back in 2022. So you can go back and look at those episodes. And I have to, say, whenever Doc and I get together, like we were talking even before we started recording, and I think Doc and I could just sit here talking about whatever and have a blast of a time doing it. And I really wanted to make sure that our episode, when we got back together, Doc, was not 2 hours long. So I did my best to try to keep us close to an hour. But in doing so, we missed out about talking about some things that I wanted to. One of them is talking about your new home in Hikone, Japan. And even, more importantly, I guess, left out talking about the special offer that you have for listeners of the show for your Verb Pro Masterclass that we did touch upon on our last talk, but we didn't really, get down to the brass tacks of it. So Doc has graciously set aside time again today to kind of go about talking about that, masterclass offering again. Share that offering and talk about his family's more rural life in Hikone, Japan. And, I got to say, Doc, when you combine our talk today and our talk from last time, gosh darn it, we're back at that 2 hours again. So, Doc, thank you for joining us once again today.
Yeah. Thanks again for having me. I appreciate it. And even at the tail end of the last one, I don't think because we were concerned about time, I don't even think I appropriately thanked you for having me. You were thanking me, and I was like being quiet, and then that we were done. And so I'm glad to thank you for having me then, and thank you for having me again here today. So it's my pleasure. Kone, and we're in the middle of rice here now in Japan. This is what they say is the real Japan, right? I guess it's I don't know. Is corn in America the real America? I guess maybe heartland of America.
In a way, it makes for a long drive whenever I do it because it seems like it never ends.
It does, yeah. So, and I don't know if I touched on this in the original episode, but if from a couple of years ago, but I went to school in Carbondale. So I lived in Illinois, and I lived in Chicago, and I lived in Carbondale. Yeah, I did talk about Quattro's, right? So that drive from Chicago downward is like 6 hours or something like that, and it's all corn and beans, right? Corn and beans. And only when it starts to break do you realize, maybe this is Carpenter's Wheel or something. I'm getting close to Carbondale.
Well,
and then the other way, you see the yards, the train yards, and stuff like that. You say, I'm close to Chicago. Sorry.
They have not improved cellular reception when you get down there. So if you don't have your maps loaded and you're driving down, you do need to still take advantage of that paper map, which we did find out when my son and I were heading down. We were driving down to St. Louis, Tennessee. We were driving down to Tennessee to go catch a concert, and we were going through Southern Illinois, and thought I had an issue with my tire because, your sensor pops up and says that you have a leak or low pressure or whatever, and went to a place to have them check it. and we were back on the road. And when I did, I couldn't load that map again, Doc. So it was, it was an interesting time. Those
Uh,
things have not changed. And before we get rambling too much, I want to let everybody know that if you have questions about Doc's offerings and courses or things, that'd be at maplopo.com. It's going to be maplopo.com. And I'm going to include a link because you need to use the link to get the discount that we're going to be talking about for his Verb Pro Masterclass. And
hmm.
as we talked the last time, if you have a group of people that are studying Japanese together, that you want to try to take advantage of some of his other course offerings and things like that, you can look at that site to get those. And we'll go from there. But I'm going to include that link that's here. And Doc, when I went to go check out, because I'm looking to get the course for my daughter, and
Cool.
then I'm going to follow it up with myself as well. Um,
Mm.
After kind of taking care, because I'd like to have us both have access to that because they're smarter than I am. And younger. And did I say smarter yet? So I know that they're gonna benefit a lot from it, but I feel for me, myself, and I, one of the things like if I can have something that holds me up in my study of Japanese, it can take me out sometimes. So one of those things that was a stumbling block for me for on more than one occasion
Mm.
is the verbs and everything that's going on. And we hit upon it last time of kind of like that backwards way that most courses kind of take you about going through that. But when I went to go check out and was just testing the link, I
Hmm.
saw that you get a lot. Like you get a lot for $200, right? There's 13 video modules. You have a flipped syllabary. You have your conjugation tables. You have quizzes. You have practice pages. You have a PDF. You have of the video course and a companion textbook that's in English. You have charts. You have recorded audio like of these charts like that are to help you with your pronunciation, which I need,
Yeah.
and like your rhythm and
Everybody.
things. And then you also had access to for like support through like your Discord support channel, and even $200 reduction in tuition should you choose to like, hey, I did this. I like how you have the format set up. Now I kind of want to go about trying to be, interviewed, get into for the public cohort. It's just like you have all this
Yeah.
stuff that's going on, and
Uh,
I'm like, shoot, for $200, that I was like, I'm like, you're getting a lot. But one thing that I did want to state, let's just get this out of the way now before we ramble again, is the
uh,
fact that you were going to give the discount for listeners of the show, and it's not going to be at the $200 rate.
right.
What would you like to go ahead and share about that, my friend?
Yeah. Yeah. So thanks for spending time on the page. That's always good to know when people read these things. And it's important. I think I've talked about purposely including friction in our processes because learning is difficult and it requires focus and reading. And people always tell me to make things shorter, but that shit doesn't work. If you need to actually learn a language, if people can't get through a long post or a traditionally long post, they ain't sure as hell going to be able to learn a language. So thanks for reading. It's indicative of your ability to be able to complete things. Or illustrative of it. The price for your listeners is $60. So it's a bonkers discount, and it's discounted with only a few outlets because we want to get good people in there, and we also need a kind of up ramping of adoption of this product. It's new, but it's not really new because it's lived within our larger cohort experience for 3 years now. However, we improved upon it and we added to it. So all those things that you were just mentioning that are in addition to the video modules are new. And Reiko and I built those out over the course of probably the past year, I think. So the 13 video modules have lived within the the general cohort experience for some time, and people have kicked them around and given us feedback on them. And and tested it out. All this other stuff is new and makes it even cooler. And so because we've unbundled it, in a sense, from the cohort experience, we need more users. We want people to tell us what they think, and we've lowered the price for your listeners to make that happen. And like I said, a couple other places, very few other places. We have 3 other partners talking about it. So yeah, it's amazing. It's really amazing, and it was built for me initially. And this is why, and maybe I never remember what I'm talking about because I'm a writer and I talk and I just bleh. So if I'm repeating myself, hopefully it will be to the benefit of listeners. I surely will be saying some things over again. But essentially, what happened was when we were designing the main course, it's for intermediate and advanced learners, right? And I am not at that level myself. And I sure as hell was not at that level. I was nowhere near that level when we started building the course, the cohort experience 3 years ago. I didn't know anything. I came to Japan with no Japanese, as you and your listeners know. And so Reiko was trying to explain what were in the beginning of the course, very simple concepts. And I didn't know. I couldn't understand what the hell she was talking about. So in some of the very, very early modules, if my job was to communicate in English advanced grammar to learners who were going to pay us money, I was not capable of that. So, in order to understand her delivery, which was a delivery for intermediate and advanced learners, I had to get up to speed quickly. And so what we did was she said, "Okay, well, I need to teach you this conjugation and how it works." Because then you'll have the language doc to be able to talk about this intelligently with other people. And that's what we did. So she spent the time to walk me through the conjugation table and to learn about it and to be able to think about Japanese in the right way. And then once I had that knowledge, then we realized, well, shit, this is probably something that we should probably add into the course. Let's create video modules and teach people how to do what you taught me how to do, Deco, because it's going to be really helpful. And so that's what we did. And boy, the simplicity of Japanese is very evident when you look at conjugation as taught to Japanese people, basically. It's not that difficult. What has happened is over the years, in the desire to kind of get people up to speed quickly with the language, people who have designed teaching materials and books that we're all familiar with had the same problem Reiko had, right? How do we get people to understand the language quickly so that they can move? And most educators feel that conjugation is a big mud pile and people don't understand it. People hate grammar, right? It's kind of it's cliche to say. And so educators stray away from it. And in Japanese, with cultural complexities and all these other sorts of things, there's an even greater initiative, I think, or maybe there was when these things were being created, to make things, quote unquote, easy for people. Japanese is the hardest language in the world to learn, right? It's so hard. You can't do it. Maybe some people love that, and people are so wrapped in this mystery of Japanese is hard. Well, shit, Chinese is fucking hard too, right? They're all hard, but we don't need to make it more difficult, which is, I think, what educators have done in a sense by changing the way it's taught and getting away from the actual foundation. And what it does is it creates a very, very shaky kind of land for most learners. Some people do well. Some people can blaze through a Genki textbook because they've had a teacher who's walked them through it appropriately and pulled apart the mystery for them, because the teacher is more educated than the learner, obviously. And then some people are just brilliant. Like we have a guy who he works with us basically, and he's an NHK guy, and he went from 0 to N1 in 2 years in Japan some 20 years ago. And he's just a genius. And some people are like that too. I'm not that smart. I'm smart, but I ain't that smart. And so this worked for me. And it worked for me because it's logical and it's linear. And that's what we teach in the course. So if I can just kind of take a moment to say what happens. So in this course, what we do is we teach Japanese conjugation, verb conjugation, like it's taught here on the ground in Japan. And what that means is we teach you the syllabary. So everybody learns the syllabary if you're learning Japanese, but it's not really learned as an integrative part of the conjugation process. You learn the syllabary as it just kind of sounds. Okay, here are the sounds. But that plays into conjugation. And it's beautiful how it works. And the other thing we do is we take the syllabary and the conjugation tables and we flip them. So if a learner is familiar with the way a conjugation table kind of looks in Japanese, they will have seen it in this traditional Japanese pattern, right, where it's vertical and it reads from right to left. So in wanting to make things easier for people who grew up speaking English, we flipped it and it reads from left to right and it reads horizontally. The patterning is exactly the same. It's just that the visual is left to right, which makes it shit tons easier to learn. So we remove that obstacle. I equate this, and people might think, who cares? That's no big deal. But here's an example. When I was younger and I went to college for photography, you develop negatives for prints upside down and backwards. And that process, if to see yourself visually like wanting to go right and actually moving your hands left, is what happens when you're forced to do something that you're not used to doing. When reading is a great example of that. So if we want to teach something that's quote unquote complicated, why layer that complexity in there? So we flip it. It makes it a hell of a lot easier. And why do we do that? Because I couldn't do it. I was like, what? I don't know. And she was referring to things and my brain was on fire and I couldn't do it. So let's flip the goddamn thing and make it easier. Okay. Wow. What a huge difference it made. Huge. So we have these two things. They interplay with one another. What we do then is we teach people the column names, because without that, you can't reference anything after that. So this too will freak people out in general if you allow it to. And teachers think that the column names are grammar and scary, right? But man, they're just words. If you can learn, itadakimasu, you can learn mizen. It's just a word. And when you know the word and you know what the word means and why it's called mizen, then you can relate it to all the other things that will follow that we're going to teach you. This process, when it's learned this way, is like learning any kind of thing that is difficult at first because we don't know anything about it. So if you want to learn how to pass a ball between your legs, if you're a basketball player, if you want to learn how to swim, swimming is really hard. You don't know how to swim, you die, right? But if you learn how to move your arms in the right way and you learn when to turn your head so you're not sucking in water, you're going to know how to swim. And we learn these skills simply because someone says, okay, now go in the water and try and do this. Maybe the first thing you do is you lay on your back, right? So we're going to teach you this thing called laying on your back. If you don't know what your back is, you can't lay on your back, right? So we teach column names so that they can understand what happens when things are plugged into these columns. That's one of the big things. The other huge thing, Michael, is because Japanese verbs are taught in the textbooks we read in a manner that's essentially backwards. They talk about kind of the end of the verb and kind of subtracting things and adding things. And what the problem with that is it's not really how verbs are made.
Right.
Okay. And what we do is we'll show you how all those things plug in together. And so what we'll do for you is allow you to intelligently know how to handle the verb and know how to speak about the verbs when you're talking with someone who knows more than you do. If you go to a Japanese person and you say, hey, I'm having trouble with these do verbs, they will know what you're talking about. If I'm using te form or ta form, and I don't understand this. Can you help me? They won't know what you're talking about at all. And some people will say, well, this is because Japanese people don't really know their language, or English people don't know our own language, or Americans, let's say, don't know English. We can't speak about it. It's different. It's not the same thing. If you came to me and you said, why is this an adjective, or is this an adjective and not a noun? I could talk to you about that if you were a learner. But if you use some sort of invented word, I couldn't do that.
I'd say like you're a bit smarter than me, Doc, because you made it to Japan, when were 47, not waited till later. So I mean, there's already some degree of smartness that supersedes mine. But I do think that kind of like the explanation you're going through right now is definitely beneficial for people like myself that may have tripped up over it, or people that are listening that may want to begin the journey and began to look at the front of that like textbook, when they're talking about these things, and begin to feel completely overwhelmed. Like like you were saying, like either it's the learning to swim, or developing film and not having it turn out how you expect it to be. This might be that thing that gets people off and running and looking back in a year or two in a completely different place than they are now. So thank you so far.
Yeah, that's good to hear. And I'm butchering the presentation too. So I'm a writer, not necessarily a talker. And if you were to go to this link, you learn more succinctly what happens. And we have a demo of the course environment there where you can kind of see what's going on too. And you'll see the difference, and you'll experience the difference firsthand if you read through the commentary, and the testimonials that we have are amazing. Like, one of the people who went through our main course is now the vice president of the American Association of Teachers of Japanese, and she loves everything that we do. It's a huge endorsement that we didn't ask for, and we're proud to have it. And it's right at the top of the page. And it's complex. I have difficulty being brief with something as complex as this, especially because it's kind of new to have to talk about it versus the regular or cohort experience. I think what I could say as I learned to talk about this with your help is that if you are someone who has tried to learn using any textbook out there, and you've walked away from these explanations that are there, wondering what people are really saying, you will not have that problem with our tool, with our masterclass. You will not have that problem, I guarantee it. Because while I might sound like a bumbling idiot now, when I have a script and when I've written it all out, I don't. And it sounds much more clear and very, 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 very easy to follow. If you're math inclined, if you're musically inclined, I'm a musician. It's the other reason why I kind of think with my ears, and I'm a drummer, so I think in rhythm. I speak in rhythm when I have a script. Everything that we teach is patterned so that you can understand it. The way things are explained in these textbooks are basically always contradictory. So if I can use one example, sure. The basic example is, what is a do verb? Well, do verbs are verbs that end in do, except not all do verbs are do verbs. What? Why do we call it a do verb then? Maybe we should call it something else. So maybe we should call it what it's actually called in Japanese. So the classifications are wonky. If you're that kind of person that reads that sort of thing and is like, wait, what the F did that? What does that mean? And you're like having to reference footnotes and things like that, this class will help you. And at $60, you really can't beat it. If you spend 1 hour with a tutor in America or even in Japan, you're going to spend somewhere between $50 and $80, or gosen yen and hasen yen here in Japan, and you will have already recouped your cost. Except other than talking about coffee and things like that, you would have learned a tool that would have given you the foundation for the rest of your life with Japanese. I guarantee it. The course itself, so the 13 videos are not that time consuming to get through. There are tips we give in there about really being studious with them, which is important. You can watch a video and not remember anything. We teach you how to keep it in your head. But it's not like it's not going to take you forever to learn this. You'll learn things immediately. It's worth your time. Maybe I'll stop there.
I like it. I like it. I think that's a nice clip as far as things go. And I was just doing some math because I don't math in my head. But especially with the discount right now, again, this is only through December 31st of 2025. So if you're listening to this in 2026, I apologize. You
Yes.
should have found the show sooner. It's completely your fault. No, but if you do the math in that, that's $4.62 about per video, not including anything else. And I used to tell
Oh.
people, like, when you start getting into around $5, that's like a cup of coffee or a meal at McDonald's. But that's neither the case anymore because
That's true.
neither one of those things are $5 anymore. So if you break it up that way, like I really do feel that this is here, and that's why. Like I was telling you at the beginning of the time tour, especially with this discount, like why not get it for my daughter, who I think will be able to take advantage of it now, and then get it for myself, who can take advantage of it later. Because I just started a new position, or same position, new school. School year starting back up, so kind of having to go about a different art program, and my mind is in a million different places, Doc. But I know that this is something that I would benefit from, and especially with you putting this offer out here of like an investment of $60 in myself now, or an investment of myself, even if you're listening to this in 2026 at $200 with everything that's being offered, is still, a great price for that. But like, go ahead. Like you said, this is going to be something that's available to you. These are videos that you can go back and reference. And then this is something that you can, you have support, you have things too. But it is, Doc. I think that's why we get along so well. Just that same reference of like going to read those things, and I'm like, just no. So,
Yeah.
I love it. And part of, I know if people are looking at our title today, beyond special offering and things from from what you have, we also they might be interested in kind of that rural portion of Hikone. And I got to tell you, one thing I love about the location you chose, and you can talk about why you chose to move there as well here in a moment. But I love the fact, my friend, that you are incredibly close, especially with the use of Japanese trains, planes, and automobiles. But your Kyoto is there, Osaka is there. Um, my one day potential future home of Hiroshima is like, I think it was like a little over 2 hours by Shinkansen. My friend, I'm like, me inviting you out to a carp game, in the future. That's not a bad trek to take. There's so much like, just around what you have. But what kind of attracted you to move to that area?
Sure. Yeah, there is a lot here for sure, despite not having anything. It's nearby, at least. Well, so we're here really because this is where Reiko grew up, and her parents are 2 train stops away, and we wanted to bring our daughter closer to her extended family, and that's the real reason why we're here. So our daughter is almost she's like just past a year and a half now, and we thought, we work from home, we can live anywhere, we could live in Hokkaido if we wanted to, and we actually thought about moving to Kyoto first, to be in the city. Reiko's brother owns an izakaya in Kyoto, and he lives in a place called Ishiyama, and we thought eventually we were thinking, because he has a son, they're the same age, basically, our daughter and their son. And we thought, well, maybe we'll eventually live in Ishiyama so that the kids can grow up and together. But then we thought, well, it's probably not so important. And so our initial idea was, as I said, to move to Kyoto, or maybe initially we were thinking, let's just move to Ishiyama now. But then I thought, well, Ishiyama's kind of like moving to Schaumburg or whatever. Like, I really don't want to do that. I've already lived in Schaumburg. I don't need to do that in Japan. So screw that. Maybe Kyoto. And then we thought, well, would we be hanging out as much as we think we would? It's like if you live in Chicago, everybody thinks, I'm going to move to Bucktown and I'm going to like hang out in all the cool places and like shit, unless you're making bank, you ain't going to be doing that. You're going to be sitting with your pizza in front of the television. So I'm old enough to realize that. And so I thought, well, the same thing with Kyoto. It'd be cool to live in Kyoto, but we're really not going to do all the things we think we can do, nor will we be hanging out in Ishiyama with the little cousin. So let's just go closer to grandma and grandpa. And so we picked this place 2 train stations away from her parents. Like in the show notes, the question thing that you shared with me before our talk, I mentioned the castle. So we have been to the castle. It's a castle town. It's a beautiful old castle, and we have been there. You mentioned things being close. So yeah, the trains are everywhere in Japan, and we happen to be close to a place called Maibara, which has a Shinkansen, and the Shinkansen can go anywhere, and it's super fast and loud when you're standing at the station. Those things are so effing loud when they go by. But we are close to everything, and it's a nice place to be. It's hot, so if you're considering moving to a rural area in Japan, as I mentioned last time, there are no trees here where there's lots of rice. They cut them all down. Some people have them by their houses, but it's really, really hot because of that. So we walk to the grocery store. It takes us about 15 minutes. Anywhere we need to walk to like buy things is about 15-minute walk. And it's really hot. And it's equally cold in the winter time. Shiga, a lot of people come to this prefecture to ski. So we're in a basin and we're surrounded by mountains, literally. And there's beautiful snow-capped mountains here when it's cold, and people love to ski here. There is Lake Biwa, which is kind of like a miniature version of Lake Michigan. I have not been there yet, but it's beautiful, and used to be heavily polluted actually at one point in time, but it's nice now. It has been for so many decades, I think, at this point. It's gorgeous here. It has a kind of pace of life that's enjoyable. I grew up in kind of semi-rural New Jersey next to Pennsylvania, so I feel very much at home here. We won't be here forever because it's too much like home for Reiko. So, like, I wouldn't want to move back to Phillipsburg, New Jersey for $1 million.
Right.
No, I don't like going back in general. It's just too. I am far away for a reason. Well, it's the same is true, I think, for most people. Maybe that's not accurate, actually. A lot of people stay very, very close to home. But for me, it doesn't work. And for her, same thing. But for now, it's great because we can go to visit her parents whenever. We were just there this weekend. We're in a drinking family. So Japan, people like to drink. And in college, we used to talk about the drunken stumble back home. We would go to the bar, like literally, stumble back. It took 2 minutes to get home. Here, you just kind of stumble to the train station, or you have someone who hasn't been drinking take you there, and it's easy. And it's not the city, and even though the city is very safe here in Japan, it's like no one's gonna like jump out from behind a tree because there ain't no trees here. Feel pretty safe. Yeah, it's a great place to live. You can come visit us when you come here, which shouldn't be that long from now, I think. Do you have any other questions about this area that you're curious about?
One was just maybe some places you like to eat, or is mainly I know I'm sure with you having the little one too that meals are a lot at home or with your with the Lago's family. Do you have any places though that you do enjoy eating in that area there, since you've been living there for a while?
Yeah, we've been here since February. Believe it or not, we've only really been out a couple times, and okay. I'm a kind of a chef, so we do cook all the time at home, and we go to her parents' house, and when we go there, it's usually a party, so it's sushi trays everywhere, right? and whatever beverages are on order. Um, there is a place relatively close to us that we've been to once with her mother and someone else. And Reiko's sister-in-law, which I won't mention by name just because
Yeah, yeah,
gives a bit too much away. But
yeah.
it was a nice kind of open, casual, westerny place in a
Okay.
sense, which was really, really nice. There's a couple places we'd like to get to. Um, as you probably noticed when you've been to Hiroshima, there's lots and lots of little tiny places everywhere. Little like bottoms of people's houses are okonomiyaki places, and they're really great when you find them. And it takes just kind of getting out and wandering around. So time wise, I think we have less of that
Yes.
with her. Plus, we have her, so we can't necessarily bring her to an izakaya
Yeah, yeah.
and and drink and be merry with the 2-year-old. We could
Yeah,
now drop her off at the
yeah,
grandma's
yeah.
house, but
I remember that time because like there's when my kids different like we talked about before like different side of things, but I do
uh,
remember there's a lot of my friends who were like, how can you not have seen that movie or this movie or that movie? And I'm like, there's this
uh,
like few year gap of time where it's like I wasn't watching movies that I wanted to watch.
yeah,
If I was watching
yeah.
anything at all, and we didn't make it out to do much. I mean, your world is your world, kind of like where you're
Mm.
at. So I mean, that makes a whole lot of sense, my friend.
It's true. It's thankfully I know how to cook, and the grocery store is nearby. Like we don't even order. So this is also another thing about Japan. I think that's not unique to me, is that kind of like ordering food is not a huge thing either. Like there is Uber here now, and has been here ever since I came here. But there's because there's convenience stores everywhere and groceries are cheap. I think people kind of do their own thing. I did very little cooking at home in Chicago, even though I know how to cook, because it was just easier to order a pizza. And if you don't have really great language skills, well, good luck doing that. You can't order a pizza.
Yeah.
you got you got to learn to cook.
It's like,
But it's a nice place to live. I like it here, and we'll be somewhere else in a couple of years. Probably. We were just talking about this the other day, so we'll see. When you are in Hiroshima, maybe I'll be in Hiroshima. Who knows?
I know that whole area has it's one again. I still have chunks of Japan to see. There's no doubt about it. But the pacing of life and then the people that I've met just everywhere, kind of like in that Osaka and Hiroshima area, are people that I connect more with. I don't
Hmm,
know. I don't know what it is about it, but it's
different.
definitely
Yeah.
like just a different group of people, and I absolutely love that. In that my son was just talking. He actually flew to Toronto to
Hmm.
go catch a Cubs versus Blue Jays game, and he beat my dad and I because we've not been to that stadium, and I've not
Oh,
been to Toronto either. But
that's a big
he's there,
thing.
and yeah, he's there, and he's like, I could see living. He thinks, that he wants to live in Tokyo, and I could see he's young, like he'll go have a
Mm.
blast being there. But he goes, Toronto is not Tokyo, Dad. He goes, I don't think I could live here. He goes,
Oh,
and if I didn't have a friend that I was visiting there, he goes, I don't know that I could make it the 5 days, of time,
oh,
just
really?
different, different stuff and things. But even
Mm.
in Hiroshima, like there's so much, just, I mean, it's close, but there's so much that's around you. Very easy to kind of get off and do what you want to do. And there's lots of baseball within a short period of time for me, which is something that I love. So, you know,
Yeah,
yeah,
clearly.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
You always
yeah.
have
And
your cap on when I talk with you.
always, always, my friend. But my daughter loves taking it off my head, and that's still at 17, soon to be 18. So we don't drive the same joke into the ground. We don't have that as a family thing, but yeah, like,
Okay.
my daughter one day will be in her their 30s and will still, I'm sure, play with Dad's hat because he loves it so much.
That's true, sure. I get that.
But no, it is good, Doc. And like I said, I appreciate you hopping back on with me, just to kind of talk about that. And just one more time, just in case people are joining us at this point as opposed to beginning, or skipping
Hmm.
around or whatever it is that they may be doing, I just want to say again, that the Maplopo's Japanese Verb Pro Masterclass. That offering that he's giving to us right now is off of that normal $200 price, down to 60, and instead of that 200, and again that is till December 31st of 2025. And I would urge you, if nothing else, go ahead and check it out. Like even if you're clicking the link to look at everything again, or doing the videos that Doc was talking about, to where you can kind of get, like he said, all those different things that you have, succinctly, put into
Yeah.
in that, please go, check that out, see what there is for it. And I do want to take a moment to kind of say thank you and an apology. I guess I should have done this at the beginning of the time. Let Doc know, but I've been in the rush of getting to school and getting my classroom set up and moving 13 years of teaching materials to a different school and going through 13 years of teaching material because kids were here Thursday, just a couple days ago for the first time. And I'm still kind of going through setting up a new room that I'm in, and it's taking um, everything, all of my focus.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
luckily, Doc, Justin, who's a listener of the show, and he's going to be a future guest. He is was like military, and he
Oh.
was in Japan for a bit for like an air show that they
Hmm.
had, and he's going to kind of talk about his experiences with that. But Justin reached out to me and said, "Hey, um, I know you're going back to school. Is that why your episode didn't drop on Monday?" And I'm like,
Oh,
"What are you?"
that's
I go like, "What are you talking about?" So
observing.
I
Hmm.
go to Lipson, look it up, and all across the page is that they were having delivery or technical issues going on. So I was able to kind of delete everything that had been like set up to go and just try to send it through manually, and it went through that way. I guess it might be something that they had with like scheduling or whatever it was. So
Uh,
I told Justin that I'll mail him a sticker of the show as thanks. But Justin, as you're listening right now, thank you. Both Doc and I thank you. And
hmm.
our episode and things that I just appreciate you doing that, letting us know, because otherwise, Doc, would have been this weekend. It would have been probably today, as I like hopped on to
God.
talk with you, and I'm like, "Hey, how's how's the show doing? How's our numbers looking at?" And then I'd be like, "They're at nothing, Mike, because it didn't,
Uh,
didn't
oh,
post."
oops.
So thank you,
Mm.
thank you, thank you,
Yeah,
thank you.
thanks,
You know,
Justin. Mm.
but thank you again, Doc. Is there anything else that you want to share, my friend, before you as that air conditioning is lessening in the room that you're in right now.
It will be off
Before
soon. Yeah. Uh, I guess one thing you did mention about the VerPro Masterclass that I didn't touch on, and I can just say briefly, was the Discord. So yes, we do have support. So the other thing that you get when you purchase the class is you get access to us and other people that are learning will be learning with you. In the beginning, it's basically just going to be us and the other cohort people who still live within the Discord. But we have a special channel set up for the Verb Pro Masterclass people. And in there, you can toss any questions you've got about conjugation, about some sort of maybe structure that you're having a concern about, or something you're reading that doesn't make any sense. We're there to help you. So, there's in contrast to everything else where I like to build in friction at the beginning, we do reduce the risk a lot here for everybody, right? Um, there's no risk. You're going to benefit so much that we're there to support you. Everything is clear. You have forever access to it. You can keep watching things. Anything we add to it, you're going to get as well. And it's just a cool little tool that will really, really help you. And the other thing, Michael, I should say is that um, so while I believe this is great for relative beginners, so people like you, like your daughter, who has kind of already gone through some learning, it's great for them. It's also, I think, I think great for people with very, very little Japanese. You got to be a hustler. You got to want to learn it, but you can come into it as long as you kind of know hiragana and katakana and you have a basic feel for what happens with verbs, you'll benefit from it. But the real surprise we find is often with advanced learners. So this dude I mentioned earlier who is like did N1 20 years ago in 2 years, he learns a lot from it, has learned a lot from it. I should say he's now going through it his second time. We just had a woman do a nice write up about it who's one of our partners. And I didn't ask her to write anything about it, and she did. And she has a master's degree. She has 20 years of experience with Japanese. She, I think, was Japanese BA major, master's major. She's a consultant with Japanese companies. And she wrote, like, she learned tons of stuff. So these people who know their stuff when it comes to Japanese, right? What happens is when you kind of unlock that key of this is why things are the way they are, if you have learned do verb, or three group verbs, or whatever system you grew up with learning, if you've learned that, this will really uncover a lot of the why for you. So that when you do have problems, because you'll still have questions, even if you've been doing it forever, this will make you go, oh, that's why that's like that. Or I didn't know I could do that. Or so it's really good for all kinds of learners. And if you're wanting to kick the tires a little bit, you really can't lose. So that's kind of all I've got to say. You got to trust us. We know what we're doing. We're translators. So again, even though I can't really talk about it really well, I know how to translate a sentence pretty well because I work with my wife, who is the genius, right? And we know how to make things clear. It's very clear. You'll enjoy it. And I'll shut up now.
I appreciate it, Doc. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks again, my friend, for hopping on today. And like I said, Doc, I feel like we could talk just randomly for hours on end and be perfectly fine. So, but thank you again for setting aside part of your time today. I do greatly appreciate it. And our episode, I know, like we're recording this right now, is gonna come out, things like that on I believe Monday for me, like around 3 a.m. and things like that. So hopefully, fingers crossed, all technical things go through this time like they normally do. We'll have that out. And if you happen to have this pop up and enjoy our talk with Doc, I would, say, hey, go back an episode, check that one out as well. And we'll go on from there. But thanks again, Doc.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me, Michael. I appreciate it. Let me get that in there.
Yeah, anytime, my friend. Anytime you want to hop on, you have an open invitation. So I love your calendar sign up that you have. That's something I'm gonna have to look at myself. Just getting those reminders and how easy it was is beautiful, my friend. It's beautiful.
Oh, cool. Cal.com. Promotion for them.
that's right. Our sponsor of the show, Cal. Reach out to me.
There you go.
But yes, on behalf of Lost Without Japan and the entire crew, I'd like to thank you for joining us today for this interview. We look forward to seeing you on board again for our next regularly scheduled episode as we continue our discussion on Japan, travel, culture, and your Lost Without moments. Just as a future plug, up and coming, we are going to be celebrating 4 years for the show, and I have a past guest who was at one point, Doc, a co-host for the show for some of our travel talks and things, that is going to be seeing if he can switch his schedule around and join me. So for those of you that are long-term listeners of the show, this will be kind of like a throwback. And for those of you that haven't met them yet, I hope the scheduling works and you get to hang out with both of us, celebrate those 4 years, and go on from there. So, to everyone out there, Oginki Day. Stay well, my friends.